Hi there, I'm Mr. Sand, and I'm going to talk to you a little bit about conversions right now. This is conversions part one. I'm going to explain to you kind of like the basics of conversions. In chemistry, we really, the hardest part of chemistry is just conversions, converting one thing to another thing. The reason why chemists convert one thing into another thing is because they're dealing with such small things. They're dealing with atoms. They're dealing with number of molecules. So they want to know how many atoms or how many numbers of molecules are in a little container, and they want to know what the product might be if they have that many atoms or molecules. So it's all for prediction, and it's all for figuring out what a possible yield could be. So that's why they use conversion so often. Today we're going to be using kind of like baby conversions, little simple things. So I'm going to start off with a weird one. I want you to think about how you might solve this. The question I'm just going to start off with is convert. Let's do this. Convert 4,532 bones to humans. And I'm going to give you some additional piece of information. You can probably guess what the information is going to be. Say, oh, Mr. Sand, I can't figure that out because I don't know how many humans or how many bones are in every human. Well, let me tell you. It's one human equals 206 bones. Now, how are you going to set this up to solve for the answer? Really think about that. How are you going to solve for that? I'll give you a second to think. You might try to do something where you're just dividing or multiplying and guessing and hoping. But I'm going to show you a way that you will guarantee to get the right answer no matter what. You start off, here's the method. The method is you start off with what's given to you. So what's given to you is 4,532 bones. Okay. Then you multiply it by something. This something right here that I put in parentheses is, and then there's like this, there's this dividing line right here. This thing right here in parentheses, I'm going to give it a special name. I'm going to call it something. I'm going to put it in red here. I'm going to say this whole thing is red. So it's red right there. I'm going to call it whatever goes in there. I'm going to call it, put in quotes, a conversion factor. And whatever this conversion factor is, it's always going to equal 1. It always equals 1. Let me tell you what I mean by this. So if you have, I don't know, let's say you have this kind of equality right here. Let's say you have 1 dozen eggs equals 12 eggs. Okay? Well, if you put 1 dozen eggs, the amount of eggs that is, over 12 eggs, well, what is that? What does this whole thing equal? It just equals 1 because this quantity on top, 1 dozen eggs, is the same as that quantity on the bottom, 12 eggs. The same thing. It's like this over that. They're the same. It equals 1. So every conversion factor is going to be made up of these things like this, these equalities. This 1 dozen eggs equals 12 eggs. Now, I could have put that 12 eggs on the top. Look at this. If I put the 12 eggs on top in this conversion factor, and I put 1 dozen eggs on the bottom, what does it equal? Well, this quantity is still the same as that quantity, so it still equals 1. So it doesn't matter if I put the 12 eggs on the bottom or the top for this conversion factor here. It's still going to equal 1. So when I multiply these bones by 1, I'm still going to have the same amount of stuff. It's just now the reason I'm doing this is because I want to put this into a different unit. I want to change from my unit of bones into something else. And my problem up here says convert this many bones into humans. So I don't want to stay with this unit of bones here. I want to change into a different unit. And the way I do that is I multiply by this conversion factor, which isn't changing the amount of bones, it's just changing the unit of bones into humans. So if I put a conversion factor here, I can put either, I can take this 1 human equals 206 bones. I can put either, you can see this right here, I can either put 1 human over 206 bones. That's a way I could do this. Or I could put 206 bones over 1 human. Okay? These are equal to each other. This 1 human equals that many bones. That many bones equals that 1 human. Their quantities are equal to each other in this little kind of made-up problem here. So, what do I want to do? Why would I put one of these over the other one? Why would I choose, let's say, this one over this one, or vice versa? Why would I choose those? Well, the reason I would choose one of the others is because I want to get rid of my unit bones, and I want to have the final unit be human. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to do the way that will make sense. 1 human on top, and 206 bones on the bottom. Now, the reason I do this is because of a mathematical relationship here. I want to show you something. If you take, let's just say, 4, I can just put 4 over 1, sure, that'll make sense, times 2 over 4. If I take this, 4 times 2 over 4, what happens when I multiply these two things? What will this equal? Well, what will happen is that, in essence, these will cancel each other out. So it'll be, the final result will be 2 over 1, or 2. So if you have something in the numerator multiplied by another fraction over here in the denominator that's the same, then they cancel each other out. So in this case, bones right here will cancel out. So I'll be left with the final unit of humans. So if I take 4,532 divided by 206, it's going to give us 22 humans, which is pretty cool. All right? Okay, I hope that makes sense. So again, conversion factor is the thing you multiply a number by, not to change the quantity, but to change the units that you're in. Let me do a warm-up problem with you, and then we'll call it a day. Yeah, a new one. Come on. Okay, warm-up problem number 1. How many tires are there on 234 cars? Okay, so this assumes some prior knowledge on your part. So you have to know that for every 1 car, well, first let me write the question. So the question is, how many tires are there in that many cars? So I could have rewritten this. Convert 234 cars to tires. That's the problem. And I know that there are so many tires on a car. How many tires are there on a car? So for every 1 car, there are how many tires? 4 tires. You're right. I hope you're right. I hope you knew that. Unless you've got a weird car, maybe it's 3 tires. I've seen those kinds of cars that have like just the 3 wheels on them. Those are kind of weird. Or you're driving a semi-truck where there's 16 tires or something like that. But we're not doing that. We're just having a car here. Right. So we want to convert them into cars to tires. So the first step, just like before, you take the amount that you're given and you start off with that. So we've got 234 cars. And then you multiply it by something. Believe me, you can set this up different ways. I know you're probably trying to do that right now. But this is the method that will save you in your despair later on in the year when we're trying to convert moles of substance into other things, into grams of things, into molecules of things. Believe me, this method, learn it now when it's easy. Even though it might seem a little bit harder than like, it's obvious here, just divide by 4. It's not that. It's multiply by 4. You could get messed around with it with like whatever method you're thinking about using besides this. Use my method here. Believe me, it will work always. So in this case, we can have the option. We use this right here. This will make us a conversion factor. So let's make a conversion factor. It can either be 1 car over 4 tires, or it can be 4 tires over 1 car. Which one will cancel out our cars? I hope you're thinking that we put the car at the bottom to cancel it out over 4 tires on the top. Okay, I'm almost out of time. I just got to make one more little tiny point, and that is, you might be thinking, well, Mr. Sand, this one isn't a fraction over here, so how can we cancel out something that's not in the numerator and then it doesn't have a denominator? Well, you can just think of this as over 1. Now it's a fraction. Aha, now we can cancel out these units. Wunderbar. So we take 234 times 4, and you're going to get 936 tires. Okay, good luck with the practice problems. And when you have a number, I just got to say one more tiny little thing. If you have a number, like on practice problem number 1, like 18 bikes and 15 gears and 6 special screws, consider those numbers to be having infinite number of sig figs, because they are perfect numbers in this case. There's no decimal point to those numbers. All right? In fact, for this whole section, don't use sig figs at all. Don't round to sig figs. Just use infinite sig figs for this problem. Don't let them get into your mind. I just want you to focus on conversions for these problems. Okay. Good luck.